and welcome back to MathT UK. Yes, I'm trying to sneak in a fishing video. I actually go back to work tomorrow, but I'm trying to sneak in the fishing video before I go back to work. The reason being is I've done a shooting video, I've done a hammock video, but I haven't done a fishing video. Now the trouble is with that, what on earth do I cover? What subject do I cover? It's difficult because by now you've probably watched every single fishing video there is to watch. You've probably made your rigs 10 times already. You've cleaned your tackle box out about 15 times. You've been on eBay and Angling Direct and all those places, and you've bought bits of tackle and you've probably done everything. So what the hell can I show you which you haven't seen over the next 40 minutes or so? And then again I thought, well, I've seen a few things over the last 12 months that have sort of gone, that's the same but different. And there are a few companies out there that are producing stuff and selling stuff and calling it their own, putting their own names on it, but then charging you an extra £20–30 for it. And some of it's just simple cooking stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you some marked up prices of cooking equipment that just isn't worth paying when you can get exactly the same elsewhere. I'm also going to show you some advantages and disadvantages of using equipment in the summer and winter months. So what equipment is good for summer and what equipment is good for winter. I haven't got every single stove, but I've got quite a few, so let's have a look at them too, shall we? But first, just have a quick look round at my fishing corner. I call it my fishing corner. Behind that wall with all the bait on it is my camping corner. So the other side of here is all my camping gear, and obviously my shooting gear is in the house nice and safe. It's not perfect. It's not everything's got its place. It is thrown up against the wall in places and just thrown on a shelf in others. But that's just the way it is. I'm not going to pretend it's any different than what I see and what you see right now. Okay, this is my fishing corner. I think it's important to note at this stage, before we go any further, that many people fish many different ways, and their idea of fishing can sometimes vary. And the reason I say that is because I'm just going to go back to a comment that was said recently in one of my videos. It wasn't an abusive comment, it wasn't somebody giving me any shite really. They just said going all the way down to a particular place and then to reel in and go drinking with your mates. Enough said. Well, that's what I like doing. And if that's what you like doing, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're the type of fisherman that wants to go to the lake and fish, you've got 48 hours and you're going to fish 48 hours, that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with you doing that, and I hope you don't have a problem with doing what I do. So fish your own way. Fish the way that you want to fish. The whole thing is about enjoying yourself. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's not literally keeping up with the Joneses. He's just been and bought one of those Rich Monkey square bivvies. Looks quite tricky actually, Mr. Jones. How you doing? All right, mate? But yeah, it is not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about what you want to do. It's about how you want to fish with you and your friends and your mates. I normally fish with Dave and Andy, and we go to France a lot, and we do all sorts of fishing together. And then once every now and again, we'll meet up with Chris, the Carp King 71, and a few of his mates, and then we'll go down and we'll have a blinding session. Now, it's not about the fish. Chris will say exactly the same thing. Those socials are brilliant. It's great time with great mates, and I think that's how we play it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay, so if you don't like that, that's absolutely fine. You fish the way you want to fish and enjoy your time, because it is your money, it's your time, and you fish it how you want, and that way you'll get maximum benefit from it, like I always do. So I thought I'd better just clear that up right now. It's not about everybody else, is about what you want to do and you enjoying your time. So you crack on. Well, it's gone 12 o'clock, so I might as well have a beer. Back to work tomorrow, and then it's the weekend. Hoorah already, but it won't be going anywhere. Cheers everyone. So making a start then, behind me is my box. Oh, I say. Now in that box is pretty much every stove that I've got for cooking, whether it be camping, fishing or whatever. There are two other cookers that won't fit in that box. And I think that's a quite important subject right from the start. And the reason I say that is because why do you need to be small? You don't need to be micro cooking. Why don't you use one of these? Why can't you use one of these? There's companies out there that have reinvented those exact two same burners, changed the shape of them slightly, done a little bit of this and a little bit of that to the outside and changed the way it looks, made it a bit more carpy, and then charge you nearly 3 times the amount of those things. They're cheap as chips. Absolute cheap as chips. But you will be conned into buying exactly the same thing for nearly 3 times the price because it looks a bit more carpy. You're cooking. There's nothing carpy about cooking. You're cooking. You're feeding yourself. That's it. So, yeah, don't fall into the trap, okay? I'm going to show you a burner which cost me £15. You tell me what the difference is between this burner and another burner that will cost £50. Go outdoors, places like that, any decent camping shop, 15 quid. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But you go online, you can pay an awful lot more. It's the same bloody thing. Just because it has a little pipe going through, or a little bit of this, and this one has the automatic starter too, just because it may be a slightly different shape, it's all about output. What output does that gas stove have? It'll tell you on the box. When you look online and you look at the gas stove, it'll give you your power output, so how much fuel it burns and how hot that burner is compared to some. Now, that's just the same as any other gas burner on the market. It's a good output, it will cook your dinner very quickly, and it's a fraction of the price that you would normally pay if you went somewhere else. That stove gives out as much power and cooks just as effectively as the stuff that you see in these fishing magazines and these fishing websites and all these brand names do. They buy in the same amount of crap from China, because it's all from China. No matter what you think, it's all from China. It comes over on a big boat, and one box goes to this company and one box goes to that company, and the only difference is some people put their brand names on, and as soon as that brand name goes on it, 30 quid more, and you buy it because you think it's dedicated for the fishermen. It's not. It's just a stove. It's just a cooking stove, and it's 15 quid elsewhere. So shop around, don't fall for it. Don't be a tackle tart when it comes to stuff like that. There's no need for it whatsoever. And if you don't believe me, go online and check it out. Go and have a look at the new so-and-so double ring burner. Go and have a look at the new so-and-so gas stove. This year's model with new improved this, that and the other. It's all crap. And I'll explain to you why no matter how fancy that bit gets, what you're totally dependent on is the fuel. So don't get too wrapped in that. Get yourself a cheap old burner which will last you just as equally long and do just as well. Grab yourself one of them, and then what you need to start thinking about, when you can use it, what fuel you can use, and what you can do to save even more cash. And that's why those fishing companies and all those brand names make so much money and are so rich, because of stunts like that, and we fall for it all the time. Don't do it. So we've looked at the pitfalls of falling for egg under the hat a couple of times. Now I'm going to talk to you about fuel. I have done a video on fuel, especially about refilling these gas bottles, but there's a couple of points that I did miss on that video, and I just want to clear them up now. Firstly, there is other devices out there as well. So you take your standard gas cooker with the screw-in thread, and you pick up your Kadak or one of these for the other type that I shown earlier, and you think, well, they are not compatible. Just a couple of quid says they are. Okay, eBay, a couple of quid. Again, unfortunately, made in China, all this crap is, but you can put that on there, twist it, simple as that, and that now screws into there, Nothing wrong with that. All you did, screw that on the end. Now, something else I want to note. These original tins are butane propane mixed. It means they're a little bit more efficient. When you refill your containers using this device which is shown on the video, all you're probably going to end up getting is butane, not butane mixed, unless you buy another one of those, which defeats the object of having the cheaper gas. Now that cheaper gas, just butane only, you put that in there, absolutely fine. That gas canister will work perfectly fine, not a problem whatsoever. But when it comes to winter, its effectiveness will drop rapidly because it's not a butane propane mix. Now, one comment that I seen on Copy Chris's video when he did a similar video to this, some geezer said, just fill them up full of propane. You may have seen these things. These are adapters for the larger gas bottles, and there's a red one and there's a blue one. And the blue one's for butane and the red one is for propane. Why is that? Why do they do different things? Because propane is completely different and works differently than butane. And if you was to put butane into that canister, turn on your gas, all hell would let loose and it wouldn't work properly. It works under a different pressure, it works completely different than it does with butane. But when it's mixed in a container like that, it's stabilized. So you don't know how to do it. If you don't know how to stabilize it, if you don't know what mix it is, then don't do it. Just use your butane, refill with butane, and if you can find a propane to fill into that, well done you. But it's not, you can't just put propane into these things. It will not work. Okay, so be mindful of that. So you can refill your gas and save yourself some money using that item and that item, but it loses effectiveness when it comes to winter. And even that, as it stands now, full of butane propane mix, this is a new one, 220 grams. When it starts to, temperature starts to drop, that will lose of effectiveness. Which is why you can buy these neoprene protectors. I don't know what the purpose of that is. I don't see what it does, because that tin was going to get cold the minute it starts discharging its gas. So as the gas is being used, the outside of this gets condensated, and then it also starts to freeze and you'll get ice on the bottom or in and around there. Now that's what happens with these things. The neoprene protector, I'm not quite sure what that's protecting. Is it keeping the cold in? I don't know, because the cold's coming from inside the tin, not outside. Does that make any sense? You can't protect the tin from the outside elements, because by the sheer fact that it's emptying itself, it makes itself cold. So I don't get the neoprene thing, but I guess they're carpy, aren't they? And they're a tenner, and you buy one. There you go. Perhaps it's camouflage so the fish can't see you cooking. I don't know. I genuinely don't know the purpose of them. Maybe it's just to protect the tin. Maybe that's all it is to it, but there you go. I don't have them and I wouldn't use them. So be mindful about how you refill your gas, what you refill it with, and don't go too far extreme one side, because you could get hurt and set yourself on fire, and you really don't want to do that. That would be a bad day. Right, so we've talked about the temperature starting to drop now. Now I know a lot of you, or some of you, would have seen me using a different style of cooker in the winter. So let's have a look at that next, shall we? What you can see in front of you now are 3 different types of alcohol stove. We have the larger military trangier, we have the smaller civilian style trangier, and we have the handmade DIY version of the Fancy Feast stove. And this literally is a cat food tin which has been adapted. This device here is called a snuff ring, and I will explain and show you what that's all for later on. In the background now you will see methylated spirits, one type of fuel, and you've got some bioethanol spirit fuel, so it's just the same stuff but different. It's just a bit cleaner, supposed to be a little bit more environmental friendly, whatever. And we have a particular type of cooking stove here, and this is called a Swedish pot, or Swedish dirty pot. It is a fantastic item and one of my winter go-to cooking kits for fishing or hiking sometimes as well, because it's robust, it's strong, and it will take a proper hammering. Now, as you can see, I'm using this to point out things. It's lighter, but you'll also notice on here this this rod is ferrous rod, and I use that mostly to light these items because the spark in here is over 1,000 degrees and it helps to ignite these stoves. Points to note: I want you to check out this little bottle in the background here, and let me explain a little bit more about that. This little bottle here is used to contain a small amount of fuel, because in the extreme winter conditions when we're getting below freezing now, these things can also be a little bit of a pain to light. Not overly difficult, but they can be a little bit of a pain to light. So it is important to try and keep some of this in your pocket or in your jacket, in your coat, or somewhere where it's going to stay warm. Because if you squirt that in there when it's been in your pocket all night and then you try and light it, it will light straight away because it's nice and warm. If that little stove has been out -degrees, sat out on the gravel, and you try and light it, it's going to take a little bit longer, but it will light. I guarantee it will light. Matches will probably be the best to use to get that lit, or you will have seen me in the past use a blade of grass dipped in the fuel, light the blade of grass, and then use that like a match. That works too, but it's probably the best way to light these systems. Now, Trangias. This is not an original Trangia. My original one's upstairs in my gun room for some reason, but this is a Alox copy, so that's a copy of a Trangia, but it does work. It works okay, so it's not a major problem. But be mindful, if you're going to buy something like that, you might as well get a genuine Trangia. They do work much better, and they work a particular way, and I'm hoping I'm going to show you that now. So it may take a couple of minutes. These stoves need to bloom before they're usable. You can use them before that, but they need to bloom, and I'll show you what I mean by bloom. And there we go. Both burners are up and running as they should be. And using the holes around the edge of the Trangia to gasify the fuel itself, far more efficient that way. So it's always best to try and wait, let your stoves get to the stage before you start cooking. It does seem like a waste, but it's not. You've got to remember something from this style of cooking, that it's not a race. Now, in the lids, you will see in the lids there is a rubber washer to contain the fuel when you put the lid back on. You do not want to be putting your Trangia stove out using your lid. That's why you purchase a snuff lid or simmer ring. Now this has two options, two jobs should we say. One is you can use it as a simmer ring, so you don't want all the fuel to be used up. You want to keep something nice and warm. So the little handle there, you flip off the handle, you just turn that slightly, and you can put that over. And what it does, it lowers the intensity of the flame, so you can simmer your food as opposed to cook with it. When you finish simmering with your food, or when you finish using that, all you need to do then, straighten up, close the lid like that, and snuff out your Trangia. And there, give it a couple of minutes, then you can put the lid on. Why didn't I show you that one? Well, Once you've lit that one, that type, there's no lid, there's no way of snuffing it out. So once that's lit, once the fuel's going, it's going until it's burned out. And that's why you have to be very careful using one of these, so as that you're not to put too much fuel in it and fill it up, because once it's going, it ain't going out. You can't snuff it out. You'll end up blowing fuel everywhere, and it's not a good idea. So I didn't like that one. It is more, this is more of your hiking, backpacking, lightweight, super lightweight gear. That's where this comes in. All right, that's probably what that's for. Right then. So that now, we've covered now some really good winter cooking devices. And they are, in my opinion, better. But it's not a race. It does take time. You're not going to get things as fast as you would with a gas stove, but I guarantee you in the depth of winter when it's minus, they will cook far more efficiently than your gas burner. You will get halfway down your gas and then it will give up the fight, and you will get no pressure from it because it's too cold and you won't be able to cook. That will always burn, and it will burn, and as long as you've got fuel in there, you can cook. Now this fuel is cheap as chips. You can pretty much get that at home bargains. I think it's about £1.50 for 500 millilitres, cheap as chips. Get one of these. These are about 12 quid. These are a bit more, £12. Don't bother with one of them for fishing. Get yourselves one of them for your winter carping. So get yourself on the internet, go and find yourself a stove like that. And get cooking in the depth of winter when nothing else will work. That's alcohol stoves. There are more stoves to use, and they look like this. Well, just look at this rusty collection I've got in front of me here now. These are all natural wood burning or charcoal or even Trangia usable stoves. These will burn pretty much anything. This is called the honey stove. This is an unnamed pocket stove, and this is a mini barbecue. You'll notice that I've kept this baby in the background as well, and the reason for that is because this also doubles up as a stove, so you can turn that way around and still use it with natural timbers and everything in there. That's the idea of that. So it's a use anywhere, use any fuel type of stove. That's why that one's kept in. I'll move that out of the scene now, and then we'll have a closer look at the stoves. The honey stove is quite adaptable. It comes with a Trangia ring, so basically you can put this ring inside there quite easily, and it supports a Trangia stove, so you can cook with a Trangia on this particular stove, and when you run out of fuel you can use sticks and twigs and whatnots. It also comes with a small square which you can see hasn't been used, and that turns this stove down to about the size of that one there. You just take a few parts away and you end up with a similar same stove. I bought two separate ones. This stove here, the honey stove, comes with a food grade grill, so you can actually, it warps a little bit, so you can actually put burgers and steaks on top of that and cook. You can use straight away pots, you know, it's perfect size for your kettle. However, if it's a bit windy, you see these little tent pegs you've got in there, you can put your pot inside a little bit and lower the size down. So that honey stove can come in quite handy. You can use Trangia fuel, you can use charcoal, you can use any type of fuel really to get going. This thing I've had for a few years now. You can see it's well used and they come in real handy. So they're very, very good pieces of equipment, and Although I think it's about £35 for this, but it is quite expensive. It is quite fiddly, but worth it. Look at the mini stove. Now I found with this mini stove, with the things like your kettle, absolutely fine, but with smaller cups it did present a bit of a challenge, and quite easy to get it off balance and away it goes. So this is from the back of a computer. You'll see this little mesh that they use all the time on the back of a computer. You can use anything really, and I just put that on there and now it's fine. I don't have a problem with it dropping anywhere now. Again, you can also use this with a Trangier. You can put a Trangier inside. So you can have your Trangier burning away in there, and you can cook away too. There we go. So again, quite a handy little stove, and as you can see, yes, definitely 100% used. I'm moving on to, not my final stove, I've got one more stove after this. This is something, it's a bit warped now, but when it's full, I have definitely used this fishing. This is a mini barbecue, and it does its job absolutely fine. The trick with it also is you can use your Trangier with this too, because on the side there's two holes. You just lift it up to those two holes. When you lift it up to these two holes, it puts the Trangier at the perfect height for cooking. Now that's something that I haven't mentioned earlier. Now the Trangier, I don't know if I did say it, you don't use the lid to snub out the Trangier because there's a rubber washer inside. But also there's a sweet spot between 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. On top of that flame is the hottest place. So, and manufacturers know that. Oops, they know that. So when they design these things, they make sure that they design them to incorporate the right heights for these Trangiers and stuff like that to work. Now you could put two side by side in there. You wouldn't really do that, but it is possible. So there you go. There is the very warped but very practical little stove, and it, again, it does work. Now if you was to have a metal tray, like a baking tray, and you put that onto a metal baking tray, then you will not leave any ashes anywhere and you won't disturb anybody. And now we get to our dilemma, don't we? Because some people don't like to see you using natural cooking methods on the bank. Some fisheries have banned it, and okay, I see why. You don't want people creating big large roaring fires on the bank. I totally get that. I really do. And so there always will be people who will take the piss, should you give them the opportunity to. So they create these rules in order to stop people taking the piss. There are a couple more cookers for us to look at before we finish this, and I will get those out now and I'll show you. Well, you may have seen these before. You definitely, if you watched any of my videos, you would have definitely seen them being used. This is the branded barbecue. You may have seen the label. I'm not going to advertise the fact of who it is. I don't know if they make them anymore. I don't think they do. I've cooked an awful lot on this barbecue, and it was Simon, who fishes with the Carp King 71, first bought one of these, and everybody else looked at them and went, oh, they look alright, and they are, and they're really good. They've got a certain lifespan. As you can see, this one's getting on a bit, but I am totally reluctant to get rid of it because I don't think you can get another one. There are similar shapes and similar designs out on the market, but I didn't think this was mad money. One of those rare occasions where it wasn't stupid money for something because it had a brand name on it. This was the only exception that I found, so I bought one. Otherwise I would have kept to something less named. So this has served its purpose time and time again, and it's been a really good barbecue. And it's controversial again. I know people don't like it, but I mean, that's you. You're fishing your way. Like I said at the start of this video, you do things your way. I'm not criticizing what you do. So this is perfectly fine. It's a really good barbecue and has looked after me and my buddies quite a bit over the last few years. And now we come on to the absolute final method of cooking that I know, and that is more commonly known as the grass killer. And there she is. Yes, the party size instant barbecue. Absolutely brilliant, aren't they? Trouble is, they just destroy anything underneath them, and it's a bit of a shame really. And you can see why people and owners of fisheries ban these, because people will put them on the grass and they will kill the grass underneath, and you end up with these little patches everywhere, and it's a shame because it does leave a mess and makes a mess. There are ways around it. Now you can buy stands for these, and I've got one, but this is a super duper extra long one, and I'm not sure if my stand will fit it, and I don't think it will, but let me show you the stand anyhow. £1.99. There you go. Now I can use my barbecue. Now I'm not going to damage the grass. The smaller ones fit perfect on the inside. This will sit on top quite happily by the looks of things. So there you go. And that now is my final method of cooking. There is one particular stove that I have missed out, and I've not missed it out on purpose. It's because I don't have it. Those stoves can be multi-fuel stoves too, but we're talking either paraffin, methylated spirits or gas. There are stoves out there, much more expensive stoves. We're talking into over £100 now, maybe 130 up to £180 multi-fuel stoves that a lot of hikers and backpackers use, and you can put various different types. There's the old Coleman type, which is a little pump up stove, and you put petrol in it, you pump it up, you light it. They're brilliant as well, but I don't have one. I can't show one. It's not something I wanted, but they are good, and I can use them all year round too. So don't think I've missed out all those people that have got those multi-fuel stoves. Don't think I've missed you out. I haven't missed you out. I just don't have them. One, I can't afford the more expensive ones, and two, I don't really want the petrol ones. I've got other alternatives instead. And there we go. So that pretty much concludes my fishing video. So thank you very much for joining me. As I said to you, be careful about what you spend out there. There are people out there who will quite happily reinvent the wheel for you to get some more money out of you, but what you're buying is already made, already out on the market, and it's probably less than half the price that those people are asking for. Some companies reinvent the wheel, they really do, and it's all a bit of a con to try and get you to spend money. So be mindful of that. There are certain things that I really enjoy using. This is one of them. We all know what that is, or most of us know what that is. I'm not going to shout out the name, but again, that same company can be quite guilty of reinventing the wheel. So just be mindful of that. There's probably about 4 or 5 different versions of this now, and each one gets more complicated, more bizarre as it goes on. So just be mindful about what you're spending. Have a look at what you're looking at properly and think, is that something that I'm going to find really useful? Some of it is, some of it isn't. Some of it is just reinvented. So enjoy your shopping, enjoy your fishing, and most of all, enjoy your cooking. You're only limited by your imagination when it comes to cooking. You don't have to have pot noodles unless you really like them. Then knock yourself out. Thanks for joining me. See you again in the next one. See you later. Bye bye.